Welcome to the Building Web3 Podcast. Today, my good friend Simon. He is the co-founder and designer at Sling Money. Before we get too deep into Sling Money, give us a brief background of yourself. What got you into this crypto world?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. As you mentioned, my name's Simon. Before starting Sling, I worked at a range of tech companies, been working in tech for about 10 years or so now. Worked on core application for Spotify. Before that, I was in sort of Web2 Fintech at a neobank here in London called Monzo. Before that, I worked in some agencies and did some analytics stuff for Google, so on and so forth. While I was at Monzo, a bunch of my friends started getting into this crypto thing, and I was always really, really intrigued by it. They were able to do, I think, truly incredible things from a financial perspective, like send money to their friends very, very fast, very, very cheap. One of my friends built this liquid staking thing where, for someone who didn't really understand the space, I thought it was amazing that you could, for all intents and purposes, put your money into a savings pot, but then also have that money to spend at the same time. It just seemed fascinating to me that there was this step up in financial technology that existed. But every time I tried to use it, I really struggled. The user experience, the complexity of it was just beyond my capabilities every single time I tried. And I counted myself as a relatively tech literate person. And I guess that's what got me even more interested in it. There's this thing that you see that has this potential, has this power to do really amazing things. But it can only be utilized by those who are really, really deep in the space. And as a designer or someone who's incredibly interested in building these financial products, that hits the bell where you're there's an opportunity here to take this thing that is incredibly complex but incredibly powerful, and simplify it and make it so that every single person around the world can use it. And this is sort of, the short version of how we got to where we are today with Sling.
Absolutely. And it's nice to know you're also a fellow Google alum. Yeah, it's UX problems is a big issue. So talk to us a little bit about what you guys are introducing at Sling Money to try to rectify some of the issues you saw in crypto when you first started using it.
Great. So Sling's mission is to connect billions of people around the world to an instant global financial system. We think that sending money should be as easy as sending a text. It shouldn't matter, what platform you use. It shouldn't matter if you have an iPhone or an Android. It shouldn't matter what bank account you have, what currency you use, where you are in the world. It should be incredibly easy to do, but for some reason it's not. And the reason it's not is because, this financial system we have today has been built up over many, many years. It's got very many, many layers. And there hasn't been a colossal amount of innovation up until recently, I guess. So our goal is to connect these people to an instant global financial system. The way we're doing that is person-to-person payments. We think it should be. We think that all the IBANs, the bit codes, the sort codes, the account numbers, they're a thing of the past. You should be able to search for someone's name or username or another identifier that that human being by, type it in, tap on their face, and send them money. And again, it should arrive instantaneously, and it should be an incredibly low cost. That's what we're trying to build here at Sling.
And then talk to us a little bit about some of the implementation of this. So what kind of technology are you guys using? How are you trying to facilitate connecting people instantaneously with P2P money?
Yeah. So under the hood, Sling is a Solana wallet. And the reason I say under the hood is because we believe that even though the technology is incredibly powerful and very, very interesting, a lot of people just don't care about the technology that their stuff is built upon. I don't know how Barclays is built, and yet it still works perfectly fine. So I say Sling is a Solana wallet under the hood, because we try and abstract away as much of the complexity as possible. It almost feels like a Web 2 app, a Web 2 experience. Apart from the fact that it's very, very cheap, very, very fast and incredibly smooth. So Solana wallet under the hood. And then we have incredibly fast, incredibly seamless ramps in 75 plus countries that allow users to add money to their Solana wallet or top up their account. Send the money using our global search directory, which is what I spoke about earlier. You can just type in a name and find the person you're trying to send. And then on the other side of it, they can, again, as easily remove that money into their bank account if they choose, or send it on to someone else. And as it's on Solana, most of these transactions happen in under 3 seconds, and each transaction costs a percentage of a penny. This is what allows us to do the things that we're trying to do.
And just for the record, if anyone finds me on the global directory, we're accepting all forms of donations. So please send those through. So let's talk a little bit about the life of a transaction. This exercise we always used to do at BlackRock. So talk to us. Let's say, I'm living in Medellin, Colombia, and I have my Sling wallet. I want to go top it up. Talk to me about the experience of maybe sending money to my friend Simon, wherever he lives.
Great. So what I'll actually do is I'll pick something like a Kenya, because we're not in Colombia yet. Although
not yet.
We can talk about that sort of the expansion stuff in the future, because it is super, super exciting. But one of the really strong use cases we're seeing at the moment is we're in, I think it's about 25 countries across Africa. Kenya is a very prominent one, and they use a system called M-Pesa, which is mobile money wallet, and we can talk more about mobile money if you like. It is pretty interesting. A pretty interesting system, but it works differently to how our banks or Venmos or Cash Apps work. So they use something called M-Pesa, which is ran from your phone, and you connect it using your phone number. So we work with local partners across Africa to integrate M-Pesa or the ability to connect to M-Pesa from within the app. So all they do is they go onto Sling, they type in their phone number, which is how you connect to an M-Pesa account, similar to a sort code or an account number, I guess. Tap add money. They have like a little bit of they get a text message, and it's like, confirm that you want to do this transaction. They type in yes, and they hit send, and then the money is added to the Sling wallet. Once the money's on Sling, that's just a classic Solana transaction. We obfuscate away your public key because, again, I don't think typing in someone's public key is the way that you should interact with people online. So we obfuscate that away. I can search for you. We have a lot of privacy features in the app that allow you to either be shown or not shown in the search directory, or you can just find people in your contacts. You tap on their face, you type in the amount that you want to send them, and you hit send. The person, no matter where they are, will obviously receive the money instantaneously. And then depending on where they are, let's choose France, for example. They can then withdraw the money using something called push to card. So they then tap withdraw money, they type in their card details, and they hit withdraw. And we use something called OCT, which is like a reverse card payment transaction, which sends the money directly to their card, which then goes into their account. All this can be done depending on how fast you are at typing. I think from end to end in under a minute. It can be done even faster, I guess, if you want to. We've added a couple of social features in there as well. We think payments should be sort of personal rather than transactional. So you can send a note, you can send a photo to say thank you for whatever you might be paying for, if that's what you like. But the core flow is sort of can be done in a very, very short period of time.
And then is the goal just to do stable coins, or what's the current state? Are we able to send on other kinds of alternative currencies, or?
At the moment, it's just stable coins. At the moment, Sling runs using USDP, a stable coin created by... Oh, sorry, we've got a little dog in the room. And someone just walked into the office and he did a little bark. Let me start that one again. At the moment, Sling just runs on USDP, a stable coin created by Paxos. You can add and withdraw both USDC and USDP on Solana, but the actual transactions within Sling all happen on USDP. I think in the future, we'll work to integrate a range of maybe G7 stable coins and maybe even more as we grow. But the goal at the moment is to stick with stable coins. We think it's the sort of It's the easiest way to help people understand the system. It's not a far leap from what they already do. You have to explain, like, cool, you previously had dollars and now you have this digital version of this dollar, and you have to go through the process of explaining, like, why is this digital version of the dollar better? The fact that it's natively built for the internet and this is what allows us to move these transactions instantaneously. But the sort of the mental leap there, I think, is a lot smaller than it would be to say, like, oh, cool, we have this thing called Ethereum, or we have this thing called Bitcoin. Here's how it works. Here's the price of it. Here's how much it might fluctuate, and all that side of things. So yes, at the moment, we think stablecoins are the way to go for Sling specifically.
Absolutely. And when we first started the discussion, you kind of talked about being the head designer and how there are a lot of UX issues that you saw in the market. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys are rectifying some of the issues that you see. Well, one, actually, first diagnose what are the current issues you see as blockchain. I'm happy to add in my own issues, which I have many, and then talk to us a little bit about how you guys are fixing it.
Sure. I'll say head designer, also only designer. I don't lead anything. I never say head designer because I think it implies there's other people here that are not that grand. I think one thing that's really interesting about stable coins and crypto is people will go to quite extreme efforts to use them, because even with the experience that they have to go through, it's still better than using the existing financial system. And I think when you see people really struggling to use a thing, but they need that thing so much that they're willing to go through the time and effort to use it, that's a really, really good sign in terms of an opportunity. For example, we were speaking with someone the other day, and the way that he sends money from Nigeria to the UK is, I think he buys USDT on Binance P2P markets. He then transfers it to Coinbase, which he then has to convince his grandma to download and figure out. He then sends it to his gran, who has to then try and off-ramp it into the UK. And even though it's cheaper and easier to do than try and send a bank transfer, it's still quite a lot of hassle. So stuff like that, just like, oh, it shouldn't be that hard. You should be able to, press add money, the money gets added instantaneously, and then you press withdraw money, and the withdraw money should be instantaneous. I shouldn't need to know this long alphanumeric string of a public key in order to send it to someone. For us, you shouldn't open the app and be shown 50 different coins that you can purchase, because if I try and show that to someone who's not a crypto native, it's instantaneously sort of a scary thing. It should basically just be a big send money button. And if we can build a big send money button that works for everybody in the world, then I think, we've done a good job there. The other side of it, I think that people always talk about is crypto onboarding, getting 1 billion people to have a wallet. And one of the things that has stopped this in the past has been private keys and seed phrases. We've again abstracted those away in a non-custodial in a non-custodial fashion, but in a way that you don't need to remember this 12-word password, and we don't need these big warnings that are like, if you lose this, everything goes. So stuff like that, just making it feel more friendly, taking some of the paradigms from Web 2 that people are used to and feel comfortable using, but then also giving them the value of crypto at the same time, which is the speed, which is the ease of use, and which is the cost.
Yeah, for people that, we don't have many skeptics on the podcast, for people that are maybe in the US and don't have to do these international money transfers, I'll give you an example. So I have to pay my rent here in USDT, and I live in Colombia. I don't have a local bank account because although I have the ID, they're still giving me a new ID because it is expired, and it's taken them over 2 months to give me the new ID. So I can't create a bank account. So what I have to do is I have to find an over-the-counter person that will accept USDT, and then I have to find different rates. So you have to go to these auction houses that will give you different rates for your USDT. And it's okay, well, let's say my USDT, or maybe I have USDC, right? My USDC might live on Arbitrum. Well, now I need to bridge it over to Tron, I need to swap it for USDT there and make sure it's the Tron version. And then I have to send it to the person, go get all of those rates. So international money transfers are actually incredibly difficult. So I'm very bullish on what you guys are doing and just making that whole process a lot easier. And now talk to us a little bit about some of the adoption of this technology. And I know you mentioned Africa. So talk to us a little bit about like the amount of countries, the amount of users you guys have.
Yeah. So we're still in beta. Up until recently, the app has had a waitlist. We've been working with some excellent users to iron out all the bugs and to make sure that we can be in a significant amount of countries that the concept of international payments is an actual valid valid concept. We can't be just across Europe. I don't think would be quite as compelling value prop, like just in America, for example. We're not going to outcompete Venmo if we were just in America, because Venmo works very well in America. And unless you are a sort of crypto maxi or like a really interested in it being non-custodial, then I don't think the value that we provide in sort of for domestic payments at the moment,
or very international. So if you're an international guy like me, you've got PayPal, you've got Venmo, you've got Wise, you've got like 12 different apps. Remitly is another.
Yeah. So we wanted to make sure the app was in a state that it was 10 times better than the existing competitors. We didn't want to create the same thing, but it's on chain. So it doesn't just being on chain isn't sort of specifically important to us. We're using it because we believe it is a 10 times better system than the existing, more than 10 times for a lot of the cases. So we're now live in over 150 countries. In 75 of those countries, we have instant or almost instant fiat on and off ramps. In the other 75-ish, we have the ability to add and remove your own stable coins from other Solana wallets. And this gives us a total addressable market of, I think it's 2.1 billion people or something around that. I think probably slightly less if you remove under 18s or whatever it might be. But the potential here, I think for the addressable market is huge. We are last week? When was Breakpoint? A couple of weeks ago, losing track of time. A couple of weeks ago, at Breakpoint, we announced our sort of like soft launch, as it were, where we removed we removed the waitlist in a bunch of countries, and also announced the ability that you can bring your own stable coins. And we're seeing some really, really positive reactions to the app at the moment. The people that are using it. I was going to say something, but it sounded too braggy. We can cut that out. Yeah, we're getting some really, really great reactions from people using the app at the moment.
That's great. Well, talk to us a little bit about, like, I know the difficulty with cross-border payments is always regulatory risk and then probably additional adoption issues. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys have like kind of mitigated some of the regulatory stuff, or how you've worked with regulators, and then also how you've like marketed it to this global audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the regulatory side of things. This is almost definitely the hardest part of building this product. But every single person on the team, I think, has worked in financial institutions before. And we were aware that this was going to be the hardest part from day one. So one of our earliest hires was a head of compliance who's worked, we worked together at Monzo, but she's also worked at a range of different financial companies before and understands the space very, very well, both from a crypto and a fiat perspective. And we were aware that like getting this right is make or break for this product. The reason why our ramps are so smooth and so easy to use is because, we have focused on it from a regulatory perspective from day one. That maybe makes us slightly slower in some places, but I think ultimately it means we have a better product at the end of the day. So we work with partners. We have our own licenses in some countries, all to make sure that we're fully compliant in every country that we're in. In terms of marketing, I think this is a tricky one, and I think, to be honest, we're still trying to work it out as we go. We have this large aspiration of being the first payments product that can reach 1 billion people, or with 1 billion users. But what's more important is we get our first 1 million users. We get our first 100,000 users. So we created these sort of like personas on who we think are going to be the early adopters. And even though in the grand scheme of things, I don't think we will be sort of like classed as a crypto product specifically. Eventually, hopefully this will become such the norm that this is just how payments work. Chatting and integrating with the amazing community that is the Solana community, and getting their feedback and their thoughts on things, is one of the directions that we've gone in terms of getting early adopters to use the application. One interesting thing about, I guess, marketing and chatting with crypto natives is they've spent the last 5 years, 10 years telling their friends that, you know, crypto is the future. And they've probably got them to download 1 million apps, and maybe they're a little bit tired of it by now. But what we often hear is like Sling is one of the first apps I can actually, you know, get my friends to use, and they can quickly and easily see the value in it and use it on a day-to-day basis. So we find the crypto crowd are really strong advocates and go out there and do sort of some of the marketing for us, or do some of the virality, the referrals for us. Which is excellent. The Solana community is truly amazing, and you know they've been a huge supporters, and also helped with feedback and stuff like that.
Absolutely, and you know, in terms of getting more users on here, you know, historically the issue with wallets has been, you know, you get greeted with this giant seed phrase, and hey, if you lose this, all your money is lost, and or somebody can steal all your stuff. Have you guys worked on like account abstraction so that when they immediately sign in, they can do like a social sign in, or how did you guys kind of circumvent that problem?
Yes, yeah. So we do log in with Apple or Google or email, and then I'm probably not the best person to go into this on detail with, but we use a company. We partner with a company called Evervault that allows us to split up the keys and I don't know if I should go too deeply into this because I think I'll probably say something stupid. What's the best way to answer this?
You guys use account abstraction, use a social login.
It's
simple.
Yeah, you can log in using Apple or Google or your email, and we abstract away the need for a passphrase, secret phrase. You can always find your private key in the settings of the app. It's still non-custodial, so you can always access your private key. Sling never has access to your private key. No one other than the individual user has access to it. You can always, you know, copy your key and take your wallet somewhere else if that's what you want to do. We think that's a very important aspect to it. We think, you know, we believe in people should have ownership of their money. And they should be able to make those decisions for themselves. I think what's really interesting is in the UK we have this thing called current account switch service. I don't know how broad it is, but it was introduced in order to help reduce the friction that banks intentionally add when it comes to sort of like closing your account and switching it. Banks obviously make this very hard for you to close your account and move all your money out because they don't want you to leave. But the UK introduced this thing called current account switch service, which does this in a couple of buttons. You press a button, it links your two accounts, it closes one and moves all the money over to it. And you get this for free when you use crypto, or when you use blockchain, sorry. And you know, really leaning into that interoperability, really leaning into that connectivity that the blockchain provides, is a really advantage for us. You know, we don't have to build that. That's just something that exists.
Absolutely. And now we have a lot of like builders in the audience and people that are, you know, looking to help Web3 companies, much like yourself. What are like some of your biggest needs? Who should reach out to you? Is it developers? Is it designers? Is it?
We're not currently hiring, so I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this.
Hey, no worries. Hey, if guys, you know, wait and look at Sling's board. All right, how about a different question? So if you couldn't work on Sling, what are some big problems in the crypto/Web3 space that you feel are under addressed that would be good to build a company
in? Before we actually decided to build Sling, me and Mike, my co-founder, were actually playing around with the concept of on-chain identity, and sort of digital ownership of your data. I think this is an incredibly interesting space. we sort of ran into the problem, which is, in order to have this on-chain identity that is useful, you need to have a lot of users, because you need to go to other people and say, like, we want you to accept this form of identity or this form of login, and they're going to come back to you and say, like, okay, well, how many users do you have? Because is it worth us integrating with you? And then in order to get a lot of users, it needs to already have utility. Like, why would I sign up? And you can do this really cool thing with passports with the digital chip, where you hold it up against your phone and it takes all the information out of the passport, gives it to you in this format. So you have this like classic chicken and egg problem, which is an incredibly difficult problem to sort of like product your way out of it. And although it's a really, really interesting problem, and I would hope maybe one day we can circle back around to it, it's a very hard company to build, I think. But if we weren't doing payments, I think something in that space is really, really interesting. I think the loyalty, people doing stuff in the loyalty, like points side of thing, are really interesting. I think there's one in New York. What's it called? New York.
Quibi. There's Cuboid is another one. I don't know why they've all triangulated on starting their names with Qs, but it seems to be.
Yeah, but I think that's really, really interesting. Like the idea that, all my data is stored in this specific place, and if I go back to the same place repeatedly, they should understand that, and they can provide me with discounts, or I buy something in this place, and then as I scan my wallet over there, they know that this part of my history, and therefore I can get into this event or whatever it might be. I think it doesn't seem wild to me that in some point in the future, and I don't know how long this will take, but like the majority of technology will be on chain. And I don't mean that as in like everyone's going to be like, oh, we're a crypto product. I mean, like under the hood, everything will connect to one or multiple blockchains. And just this movement of information will be a lot smoother, will be a lot easier. And anybody, I think, building something to accelerate that, I think is a really, really interesting thing.
Absolutely. And finally, where can people learn more about Sling, learn more about you, get connected with you online?
Great. So you can read more about us, I think, on sling.money. That's our website. If you search Sling Money on any sort of social media, we'll probably pop up there. We're big and we're orange and we've got a little circle logo. So you can find us on Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff on there. We also have a Slack community. If you sign up to the app, you'll get prompted a couple of times in different places in settings to join the Slack community. The whole team's on there. It's a really good place to come and ask us questions or give us feedback or feature requests. So I fully encourage people to jump on there. And if people are interested in chatting about this stuff, that's great. Everyone on the team's there. So if you have compliance questions or dev questions or design questions, that'll be a good place to go as well.
Awesome. Well, everyone go get involved with Simon Online. Go check out Sling Money, and let's continue building the future of Web3.